You're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network of podcasts.
You're tuned in to Steve Megatron on Altered Geek.
Hello and welcome to Altered Geek. This is another one of the off-the-cuff specials, and joining me in this episode is...
Michael Booth Ninja Powers.
And, we're going to talk mostly Legos and the art of collecting them as an adult. Because we jumped on this call and we're like, hey, we should... you're like, we should be recording this.
Well, yeah, it was kind of becoming a really interesting conversation, about, well, a little bit of context. We started talking about, what we've been doing over the holiday or whatever, and my wife and I spent the day building Lego sets. She grabbed herself the Lego Ultimate Collector Series BB-8, which is quite the nifty little toy. I've never seen Legos make a round shape, so that's kind of cool. But then I scored for Christmas, or probably for my birthday for the next 5 years, the Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon, which, for anyone that doesn't know, is the largest Lego set ever made, and it also has the most pieces out of any Lego set that's ever been made, at around 7,500 pieces, give or take.
Which is insane.
Yeah, I'm not even halfway through building it, and I've been working on it since 1:30. So I stopped at about 9. So I've spent about 7.5 hours building it so far. So, and I don't even have the skin on it. I've just been building like the interior. So, but no, I thought, we were having such an interesting conversation because you said that you took your family to Legoland.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun going through there with the boys, and they really liked the they had this full scale replica of downtown Detroit, which was just crazy. Like, they had the various sports stadiums. They had the monorail thing. They had just the water. They had the GM building with where it's in the middle, and then you've got the other four pillars on the sides of it, and
Yep.
It was just crazy. And then on the other wall they had a massive amount of Star Wars ships and setup. So it was a lot of fun to go through there and look at it. And they kind of blew this fake snow stuff on it to make it look like it snowed in there. And they had they had vehicles that actually drove around.
See, I was gonna be a real jerk and just ask if it was a bunch of half-built buildings.
Oh no, they were fully built. It was insane. The only ones that were half built were the stadiums, so you could see the Lego people sitting in the benches, and you could actually press buttons and control the movement of the football players and whatnot in the stadium. So it was a lot of fun to sit there and kind of just look at it and check it out.
Okay.
I'll probably post pictures of it on Twitter. I've had them on my phone. I just keep forgetting to actually post them because I was like, this is crazy, just the amount of pieces. Yeah.
So it's been interesting for me. One of the reasons when I said we should be recording this conversation from the get-go was because I have I guess I first I've loved Legos since as far back as I can possibly remember. As anyone that actually plays with Legos would probably tell you the exact same thing, right?
Yep.
But up until 99, so I don't know, the first 18 years of my life, haha, nerd me. The first 18 years of my life, Legos were something. Actually, no, it was a little bit before that. So it was let's say the first 15, 16 years of my life, from when I could play with Legos was always dumping out every piece under the sun and building, whatever you saw in your imagination, and I was fortunate enough to have 3 of those, 40-gallon Tupperware Rubbermaid tubs, like full of Legos.
Nice.
And I would, my cousins would come over, or, a Saturday if I was by myself or whatever, you dump out all 3 tubs onto a massive quilt and you go through all of those pieces and, you try to find what you're trying to build. But eventually that became, with the help of my cousin, that became, okay, let's build we got really into like the diver stuff that came out in the late 90s. So we're like, let's build boats, because we had these old floating boat hulls from the floatable Legos, and it was like we weren't doing anything with them, so we made these giant ships, these giant ocean going like diving ships, that had like submarines on them and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have mine that I built that is now, it's now older than I was. The set is now older than I was when I built it. I still have that, but and then it kind of turned into Lego released all of the Star Wars sets starting in '99, and I bought all of the first wave sets. And so long story short, I have the Ultimate Collector series of Millennium Falcon that I'm putting together, but I also have the original Millennium Falcon that Lego released.
Yeah, I remember that vaguely, just many years ago, that they'd kind of released, and it doesn't even look as nice as the new one that's out.
But okay, so they've had like a fair number of Millennium Falcons over the years. It's like, looking back on it, it's almost like every other year or so they release a new build of the Millennium Falcon, and each one gets either slightly more detailed or slightly less detailed. Because this isn't the first Ultimate Collector series of the Millennium Falcon. It's actually the second one. The first one came out in 2007 when I didn't even know that the Ultimate Collector series was a thing. Nor did I have the money at the time to actually buy the thing if I had known it was a thing. So like I have like the original B-Wing that came out in 99 2000, and I also have the Ultimate Collector series B-Wing. I have parts of the original Slave 1 and the Ultimate Collector series Slave 1. So like I can display the things side by side and you can see the evolution of like the Lego sets. But what's really kind of been cool for me is growing up, my dad was always into building models. And I like putting together a model, but I don't have the patience that it takes to actually do one properly.
For the whole tearing it apart, painting it, gluing it, all that.
I mean, I'm perfectly capable of doing it. I just don't have the patience for it. But like, growing up, my dad would always get me like the '89 Batmobile set or Back to the Future car or the Ecto-1 from Ghostbusters. Like he would get me like model sets that were from things that I was interested in. And it's been really cool over the last 8 years or so that, Lego has basically been re-releasing, been making those sets. The sets that I used to build myself with out of my head, out of pieces that I had, like I can now actually just go and buy the kit that looks way better than anything I could have put together. Mm-hmm. And so it's, in my head, I'm like, I'm displaying a model more so than I'm displaying a Lego set. These are something that I'm not ashamed to leave in my family room. Like, you walk in and there's Legos everywhere, but they're all I'm not afraid to display them because they don't look like a child's toy.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't be ashamed to play with any of these, although I don't play with them. But I've got like a lot of really cool things. I've got the Wall-E that was really hard to find. But I fell out with Lego. What actually got me into collecting it big time was their architecture series. which was, they made like the Sears Tower and the Empire State Building and stuff like that. They were just little kits, just simple kits.
I remember seeing those. I always thought that they were really neat, especially for a small kit.
Yeah, I like architecture. I like buildings and stuff like that. So when I saw those, I was like, that's something that I could, build and display, and that's what kind of set off this whole. Basically, whenever I go on the Lego website, it's pretty much anything I can find that has like a plaque or a stand that comes with it. Like, I will find a way to buy it, because I don't know. It looks really cool. I think the weakest one that I have is the Shield Helicarrier, but that's only because I don't have a good way to display it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's rather large. I think after building the Millennium Falcon, it's going to be the third largest set I have. But it's an aircraft carrier. It looks very dull to look at it from the side. Like, and that's where I have it. I have it on top of one of my DVD cases, and it's at eye level with myself. So like, you can't see any of the cool details or features about it, and I'm kind of trying to figure out how to do that. But no, do you have any like Lego stories or anything like that?
Well, like a lot of the ones I used to have. I mean, I used to build. I actually had an entire armada of Transformers I'd built out of Legos back before they had like the Lego or the whatever Hasbro's version is called, and they by no means looked like fully detailed.
Oh no.
Just because like I was taking any special pieces I had and kind of cobbling together the best Transformer things that I could.
Yeah.
And I had made like I'd made my own like version of Soundwave with like the cassettes inside the chest and whatnot, and the pop open cassette deck, and we'd created this immaculate way of making everything transform, which was interesting, but at the same time they looked like these giant like brick monstrosities, and I actually had one of them for a number of years that was as tall as my oldest son at one point when he was, I don't know, about a year and a half old, and I'd gotten it out of storage, and I was like, I'm going to take a picture of this, with a side-by-side comparison of them, and then I tore it apart and destroyed it, and it joined the great Lego collection that we have now, of just a ton of Legos, just miscellaneous Legos, just in bins, and so, I go through now, and I get to rebuild things with my kids that I had a kit for as a kid, and although I don't remember them, the beautiful thing is you can always go online now and get the instructions.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that, and I will actually rebuild kits from when I was a child and had certain Legos, because the funny thing is a majority of my special pieces I had hoarded. So like the bricks themselves, I have no idea where they went. But the actual special pieces that went to these kits, I'd saved them, and on this giant immaculate transforming robot that was about the height of my knee, which I could actually make turn into a jet, which was kind of inventive on its own. But I'd stuck all of these special pieces either on the outside of this thing to make him look just that more awesome, or I'd shove them inside compartments that I'd built into the arms, the legs, the feet, the chest cavity, and the backpack. So when I tore this thing apart, I was like, oh, special pieces, and I'm just finding them everywhere. And and so like I was able to rebuild like this old airplane set that I had as a kid, and gave it to my son, and then like I had two of the Star Wars land speeders.
Okay.
One on each shoulder. and I was able to because I didn't really tear those apart. I kind of added pieces to them, so I actually rebuilt them back to spec from the original instructions, and then there was a majority of other things that I built out of them. But the fun part is getting to build stuff with my kids and do that now. Although I still have 2 kits that I had. They were the Spyrus robot.
Okay, yeah, I have. Yep, I know what you're talking about.
I still have that, and then I still have the when they had like the Robo, Robo this, Robo that for everything, late '90s type of thing.
Yep.
I have one of those still, but that's about the extent of my Lego collection at this point, because if I want to build something now, I just go into the Lego kits that my kids have, and then I build something out of it, and they're like, oh, I really like that, blah 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 blah. I just make stuff up now, so it's just that's what I kind of sit there and do, and then I go into the Legoland and I'm like, I kind of suck compared to these people.
I feel that way when I'm building these sets, like the architecture sets, for example. They look so simple, because it's just, you're basically just stacking blocks on top of each other to make them look like a building. But so like I looked at it and I'm like, I could totally make this myself, but I still bought the set and I got it home and I started putting it together and like, I never would have built it this way. It's like, I'm like, wow, I'm completely taken aback by, what the builder's choice of part, for certain things, here or there. And every once in a while, I'm like, I have no idea why they chose to do something this way or why they chose to do something that way. And sometimes it comes back around to like, okay, now it makes sense. But, there's also those moments where it's like the decision to do whatever they did there doesn't make any sense ever in the build. It's just that's just how it ended up working out. But, I don't know, have you ever, have you ever glued a Lego set together? Have you ever thought
about it?
See,
I've thought about it, but I'm like, but what's the fun in that? Like, if it breaks, then I get the challenge of trying to put it back together.
And there is something fun about trying to put a set back together. Like, I don't know if I shared this story before. I feel like I might have shared it on one of the Alter Geek podcasts when I was able to record over this past year. But when I moved into my current house, my Batmobile tumbler rolled off of my bookcase, because I hastily put it up on top. I didn't put it all the way on the shelf. I left one wheel hanging off, and it was one of those moments where it's like, I'm going to let go of this for a second, and I'm going to reach down here and grab this and put my hand right back. Right? You know how you have that, you think you could do something, but you can't?
Yep.
And I pulled that, and the thing went rolling off the top of the bookcase and fell probably about, I'll say 4 feet.
Ouch.
Onto the corner of my subwoofer.
Ooh.
And the entire right side of it exploded.
Wow.
And the tumbler build is really, it looks sturdy, but it's not. It's a lot of floating plates to achieve the look that they wanted. And yeah, so it literally exploded, and I was like, okay, it took me a second, and I was like, I think I literally said, well, that's effed up, like that's done, like fantastic. And I got down, I grabbed all the pieces together, and you can kind of, luckily, this might be gross to some people, but dust is a Lego set's best friend.
Yeah, because if you see a clean part, you know that exactly. It's been hidden.
Yep. And so I was like, okay. And not only that, the set is symmetrical, right? So I was like, okay, I've got one side of it is still intact. I just have to deal with the right side. So let's see what I can do. And I was able to it took me maybe an hour to put it back together. And when I had it back together, I still had one piece left over. And I was like, I have no idea where this one piece goes. And I think it was completely clean, which was throwing me off. And so I went and got the instruction manual. And I kid you not, I went through page by page and I was looking for this one piece. Like, okay, show me, I want to see every step where this one piece could possibly be used, you know. And I found it and I got the thing back together. It's no longer on top of my 4-foot bookshelf anymore. But yeah, it's there. I have never, actually, I can't say I've never glued a Lego set together anymore. When I went home for the holidays this year, my mom said that she was going to start collecting the Christmas Lego sets. And she wanted to use those as Christmas decorations. And so I thought, well, you know, I can build them and we can glue them. And then it doesn't matter, you know, they won't break. Like, you can always use them as Christmas decorations, you know. And I did that. I built the Santa and the reindeer that came with the set. I built that and I glued it all together. But then I was like, this is dumb. Like, first of all, it was way too slow. Like, again, there's my impatience, right? I have no patience for it. But it was like, I can build much faster than this if I don't have to glue everything down, you know? So I gave up on it. I was like, I'm building this. If any parts fall off of it, I built it. I'll remember where they go.
Yep.
And that's like one of the crazy things that I can do with Legos. Like and my wife can vouch for this. She got done building the BB-8 and there wasn't something quite right with it. And I had it in my hands and I spun it around and I looked at it and I was like, and I popped off one of the sides because you make all 6 sides and then when you put them together, it becomes a round ball. It doesn't make sense unless you actually see the build. But I was like, okay, I know what happened here. I popped the thing off and I fixed the problem without ever looking at the instructions. So I just, they egotistical or whatever you want to say, they speak to me. Like, I can, like when she was building the Disney castle, like I looked at it, I just looked at it for a second and I was like, that's not right. And I like moved like one little thing and the whole like thing like snapped into place. But she just kept building around the error, you know, because that's how she thought it went together. But yeah, no, that's, man, I love Legos.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences. I usually can look at something and rebuild it without instructions. Like the 2 that I mentioned, I actually have them in my storage bin at the moment in a Ziploc bag so that the pieces don't get lost. But they were utterly smashed in the container.
So what is your favorite genre out of all of them? What's like what was like your favorite one to collect as a kid, or that you asked for like a Christmas or a birthday present, or did it not matter? Like, a Lego was a Lego.
It didn't really matter back then, but there really weren't any franchise properties back then. I mean, yeah, they had different divisions of Lego.
Right, but I mean,
I always wanted the space, like the NASA stuff, and I always wanted like the city building, but I never got either. And
okay.
I had a lot of the Spirus stuff.
Okay.
So those were my favorites overall, and I did have a lot of them. But yeah, the other 2 were things that I wanted, but luckily my friends that I used to go play with Legos across the street had them, so I got to kind of both got to kind of swap and play with them, you know, and kind of see how they were.
So I think the last thing I want to say is the coolest thing I've ever done that involved Legos, and I've done a lot of cool things, but to me, and this is just kind of like a more of a personal thing, was, you know, when you mentioned borrowing Lego sets, right? And swapping parts and whatnot. And I remember I think it was Christmas of like 95. Okay, and the Ice Planet 2000 stuff had come out.
Oh, I remember those.
Okay, it was the space stuff, but they had the special
Planet,
skis.
Yeah, and they were all like the blue and white.
Yep, the blue, white with that real that neon red, red orange stuff. Okay, so my best friend, who's been my best friend since 3rd grade, he's still my friend, best friend. He lent me this Lego set that it was an Ice Planet 2000 Lego set, and it was like this really cool, like space semi truck that had a missile on the back of it, and I lost the whole. It never made it back to him. The whole thing ended up in pieces in my Lego collection. And probably 4 or 5 years ago, I stumbled across a great website called brickset.com. And it's full of people that have those sets, and they will sell them with the instructions and all the pieces.
Oh, nice.
And I went and found that set, and I bought it for him for his birthday. And of course, it came assembled, and I broke the whole thing down into its individual pieces, and it came with the instruction manual.
Wow.
So I could have been a total jerk and wrote the whole thing off as I sorted through every single Lego piece I had and found all the pieces, but I flat out told him what I had done. But no, I think that's one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Yeah, that's definitely a pretty nice thing.
But
yeah, Legos are definitely fun no matter what age you are. You just evolve with the Lego set.
Yeah, I don't think a year's gone by where I haven't gotten 1 or 2 of those Ultimate Collector Series sets since, I think, actually, this year I picked up 3. This is the year I picked up the most, which is absolutely ridiculous now that I'm thinking about it.
So yeah. What do people think about Legos? You can use the hashtag LegoLife for your thoughts on this this episode, or on the website or social media.
Do you have any favorite sets or builds or stories involving Legos, or your favorite Lego genre type, anything like that? Which, by the way, I think mine was always the castle stuff, the woodland.
Those were pretty cool too.
It all stemmed from Robin Hood, the Kevin Costner movie with Robin Hood.
Yeah, because that was pretty big around that time.
Yeah, so that's where all that stuff came from. But yeah, and then later on it was the town stuff, like you said, the town and the space stuff, like the city stuff. That was always big too. So.
Yeah, because we had a lot of those movies coming out around then too.
Yep.
Armageddon and everything. So.
Yep.
So yeah. That rounds out this episode, so hope everybody enjoyed it, and until next time, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.